only time it's ever been effective, I think, is when you feel all like.
Yeah, I mean sometimes it can be weird, but if you've got enough room, if you have more slide room sitting there, I really don't have a preference. Something clear. You guys are picky about it. And mine, just because they're scared to sit on the end.
Little gap there.
Good, doing good. Yeah, Hannah's starting to get lots of words. It's really cute. She's 19 months, 19 and a half months. So yeah, pretty crazy. It goes so fast.
Two and 8 weeks.
Yeah, it's a very weird thing. You know, Joseph is in kindergarten next year, which is amazing.
Anyone else want to make a head call? You have to be escorted, apparently.
I'm good.
Good. Okay.
Good, yeah. Just that it's like, I don't know what's in the air, but it is not agreeing with me.
I saw little mini bottles. Maybe they can get us some of those.
I would hate to ask for stuff.
And a bowl of green M&Ms. Lavender candles.
Personal fan and some field.
Joe Barton.
No, I'm talking
The direction for us. Keep it on the same.
yeah, should be fine.
The Corker Cadets.
The part's terrible. Wait a second.
We don't have to play anymore. I'm sure we can do all this stuff.
Wouldn't mind doing this online. My only no is corporate, but that's not anything else.
On that beach?
Oh, is that hard?
There's a reason why Andy refused to play it.
I remember folding on Arch the Mother Queens once. Oh. Yeah. I will say though,
Some of these are like concert markets, like play one,
yeah.
part of a recital.
It's gonna be good. I love transforming out of the
Rick Perry's gonna be here. Oh my god.
Now we get
This is gonna go late.
Now we get up.
Maybe that's who was driving by.
What?
Maybe that's who was driving by.
Probably.
Oh my gosh. Is he talking?
I don't.
But we're not playing for that.
Sure.
Oh yeah, it's true.
It's fine.
My concern these days is like, having to sit through these things and like try to keep a straight face.
Yeah. We did one last week. We sat through 18 speeches.
How long was it? It was really 18.
It was a whole bunch. We were supposed to be sitting in the sun.
At least 5. And Tammy Duckworth was like 25 minutes late, so the thing didn't start
Sammy.
late. And then we left way too early.
She was sitting there.
She's the veteran hospital things.
Oh. Helicopter pilot?
She told her story. They had like a video playing and her story about what happened.
Which they refused to turn off. They were supposed to be doing it.
Yes, we heard like 3 times.
Yeah.
Question. Should I just make an executive decision and move that microphone so we hear something besides trombone?
And what?
So we hear something besides trombone.
Would make sense.
That's great.
No offense.
Wait, unplug one.
Is this being televised? Is this why we have like?
The Department of Energy internal channel is certainly a better
Because
idea.
like for this, we don't need any type of amplification if we're just playing for this many people.
Nobody's gonna hear me anyway because I'm playing in tune.
Now the microphone's taking a better picture.
What?
It's taking a better picture.
Yes, it is.
Are we going to be covered at all during
Nope.
this?
I just decided no.
Love it.
And they can see our pretty shining faces.
That's right. Photograph way better.
Let's go around. You just call the first one. What do you want?
Billboard, 23.
Okay, so microphone test, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Microphone test, 1, 2, 3. Wayne, the mic that they're on is ringing. The mic that they are on is ringing. That's S3. Turn S or mute the S4 and S5 ones.
I'm just sitting here and I'm in a way
Microphone test, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Microphone test, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Muhammad, I hope you can hear me. Test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2.
Like this last two. Number 18, this is number 3. Well, I've been Sure. That's like a nice fit period.
Right?
That's actually
Yeah. Oh, so like a
is like some kind of dystopian future where apocalypse has already happened and all this stuff, just like buildings like this.
Survival.
I was just thinking, like, how long does it take for stuff to deteriorate? Like this kind of.
How long does it take for it to dry? You know, there's parts of Hoover Dam that still aren't dry because the concrete's so thick.
Yeah. Wow.
Like in the middle, the very bottom, where it's the thickest, there's still concrete in there that's not dry.
Just by the nature of a dam, it's a humid environment.
Well, that too, but
You know, which dries things.
and then they just recently figured out why the Romans' concrete was so much better than everybody else's, and it had something to do with the volcanic ash that they were using to mix it in, created another chemical bond. That's why like Roman forts are still standing, but like modern forts that were built 50 years ago out of concrete are like crumbling. Just a bad sign.
Yes. A little more resistance. So, kind of.
Oh, a little more resistant.
Yeah.
It's like $1 million industry to make the rest of it feel bad for a lot of nations.
Have you heard of the buzzkill?
I know those people.
People made buzzkill? It's like basically a silencer for buzz and that one's too quick to see them
Was everybody in the work departments?
pretty much. Shake it. I don't have to ask permission.
That should be like our new go-to White House march. Quality Plus. It's like stay Quality Plus. It's a terrible march.
Do you really want to memorize anymore?
Oh my goodness, that's a good idea.
Every time they do it, it's like a shit show for like the first 4 parades.
Yeah, until people just make up their parts.
Yeah.
It's like no one actually memorizes the real stuff. So everyone just makes up like the positive. Okay, great. This kind of sounds alright.
It's very melody heavy here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Everybody misses those kind of parts.
That's true.
If lights go off, they're gonna stay off. It's too much for that breaker.
Wouldn't mind if they were
Yeah, we
on my eyeballs.
save some experience. It's like burning charcoal. You guys digging like definitely.
That's the first part of your fantasy
Yeah,
there.
exactly. Oh, yeah, it's like bringing back like old jobs. You just have like some guys like shoveling like like charcoal from Home Depot, just on the back for a while. These new charcoal power lines. Brought to you by the Department of Management and Kingsford. Sponsored by Kingsford. Yeah, exactly. It's like dumping bags of Kingsford into. Yeah, exactly. You couldn't get a day to like dump on solar energy though.
Oh, yeah.
Felt so bad for him. It's like he didn't even know it was coming.
It's because of Scooby-Doo.
I just feel bad. Like, how would you feel if like you went somewhere and all of a sudden you woke up and you're missing a tooth?
Sounds like another bar.
That's terrible. Yeah, it's like wakes up in a bathtub full of ice. Huh? Maybe. Right? One less concert work.
Maybe we never start late.
I'm really gonna wait for it very They got things on time or wait.
Yeah, but they were just like, well, they were confused with the lines now. Especially when it was for having a day and the officer was like, maybe we can play long, like, we're happy to do that. And then like, how long is it? And then it was like, 4 minutes. They're like, well, that's too long. And it's like, can we shorten it? I was like, no, sir, we can play the entire thing. We can play the green sound for 30 seconds. So we're playing green sound.
Okay.
Probably time to kick off. People are already standing for the color sequence, which is why we kick it off while people are already standing.
Okay, so I can say stand for the,
When people
National
rise for the
anthem.
colors, that will carry itself into the green sound.
okay.
Because people are already standing. Like I said, we started as soon as the colors are sort of out of the area. So most people are standing. Thank you.
All right.
We can kick off the ceremony when you guys are ready. Thank you.
Billboard or blackjack?
Billboard. Annie?
You know it.
No, I'm sorry, it's not. It's
41.
41?
Mystery water somewhere. Well, I might just see it.
It's no help.
Can everybody please take their seats? We'll be starting momentarily.
You want to run through 18? It's probably about a minute and a half. Run through it. That is nice. We don't play the slow ones very much. There's actually people here. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, welcome to the Department of Energy's 40th anniversary celebration. I'm Frank Klotz, Undersecretary for Nuclear Security and Administrator of the National Nuclear Security Administration. I'm honored that Secretary Rick Perry has invited me to serve as Master of Ceremonies for today's special event, so thank you very much, sir. Now, before we start today's ceremony, I would ask everyone to please stand for the presentation of the colors by the Joint Armed Forces Color Guard and remain standing for the national anthem and the Marine Corps hymn performed by the Marine Band Brass Quintet. Please be seated. And I'd like to thank the Joint Armed Forces Color Guard and the Marine Brass Quintet for that stirring rendition. Well, it's really great to see so many colleagues and special friends on this occasion. Several members of Congress have joined us, and I know the Secretary and the Deputy will be making mention of them. Also here today are 20 charter employees, I think they call them plank holders in the Navy, who began their careers at the department when it first stood up in 1977. And we even have a few folks in that group who worked with the agencies that preceded the creation of the Department of Energy. You should all know that, however, as far as we're concerned, each and every one of the dedicated, patriotic men and women who work in the Department of Energy is a distinguished guest today. And now it's my distinct honor and pleasure to introduce our first speaker, the Deputy Secretary of Energy, Dan Brouillette.
Thank you, General. Appreciate that. And welcome everyone to the 40th anniversary of our Department of Energy. Well, give yourself a hand. It's a great day. You know, the writer F. Scott Fitzgerald once famously said that there are no second acts in American life. But I am proof positive, as are some of the members of Congress today, that there are at least second tours. For those of you who don't know me, and for those of you who do, you will know that this is my second tour at the Department of Energy. And while I've only been here since August, I'm hardly a newcomer around the building. My first time here was in 2001. I served from 2001 to 2003 as the Assistant Secretary of Congressional Affairs. And during that time, I had the opportunity to meet and to get to know many of you who are with us today. Today, we're honoring a very special group of employees, 85 men and women who have been here since DOE first opened its doors. And of course, there are folks like Mr. Goldner who have been here even longer, if you count their service in DOE's legacy agencies. In a world where many people leave jobs every few years, their decision to stay is commendable and admirable. Their longevity points to their loyalty, and it suggests what a unique place the Department of Energy was then, and it continues to be. Just look at our mission statement. I'll quote it for you. To ensure America's security and prosperity by addressing its energy, environmental, and nuclear challenges through transformative science and technology solutions. There is not one shred of exaggeration in that statement. Every part of it speaks to a real-life function of our department. From safeguarding our nuclear stockpile to cleaning up the Cold War sites to researching and developing solutions to our energy and economic challenges, this department engages some of the most consequential issues of our time. And a big part of our department concerns science and technology, which obviously touches every part of our mission. Our national laboratories are the crown jewels of our country and the envy of the world. But you don't have to be a scientist or a researcher to be a valued member of our team. Nearly every profession and nearly every walk of life is among us today. But if there is a single thread that runs through this place and its people, it is this: a determination to make our country a more secure place to live. And here at the Department of Energy, when we say security, we mean it in the fullest possible way. We mean protecting and securing not just our nation, but the flow of its energy, the strength of its economy, and the health of its environment. And the way we protect it is not static or passive, it's dynamic and engaged. That means we never stand pat. We're always on the move. We don't draw lines and hold them. We break through boundaries, we push out the frontiers, and we forge ahead. We don't hold on to old biases, and we don't chase new fads. We follow the science and the facts wherever they lead, because that's how you pursue real security and real protection. And that's what the Department of Energy has been doing for the last 40 years. From the rise of renewable energy to the spread of economic productivity to the exhilarating journey to energy independence, you have made a difference. You, the Department of Energy, has left America better than it was 40 years ago. And I am confident that for our department and for our nation, our best years are still ahead. God bless you. Thank you, and please help me welcome our Secretary, the Secretary of Energy, the Honorable Rick Perry.
Yes, sir. Dan, thank you very much. It is a privilege to have this man working with all of us here today. And General Klotz, I want to say to you, thank you, sir, for your decades of service to this country and to this agency, and it's a privilege for me to be here today to celebrate a 40th anniversary. And I want to thank all of you, particularly the employees of this agency that by and large are the reason that I get up every morning and know I'm going to work at the coolest place in the world every day. Partly because of the things that we get to do, but more importantly because of the people that are sitting in these seats and working this agency and scattered out across this country. I particularly want to take a moment and say thank you to our colleagues from Congress that are here today. They each have a very interesting story, which I'm going to share a little bit with. Congressman Fleischman, he has Oak Ridge National Lab in his district, so he's got more than just a little bit of interest in what we do here. But kind of on the lowdown, this is his birthday today. So wish the congressman a birthday. I promised him I would not put him through the pain of me singing him happy birthday, so I'm going to keep that promise. And Congresswoman Capter, I want to say thank you. She's highly known in my world as being the chairman of the Ukraine caucus. And so we've got this more than just a passing interest in the country of Ukraine, its viability, its strength economically. We're making some major shipments of United States coal into that country and working very closely with some people who I happen to think deserve our friendship, our support. Joe Wilson, South Carolina, the father of 4 Eagle Scouts. That's your, I'm not going to say it's your highest and best work, but you and your wife, hats tipped to you. And maybe in Congress, one of the people who has the tenure back to the Department of Energy more so than anybody else, with the possible exception of the man just sitting to your left. He was the general counsel to then Secretary of Energy, Governor of South Carolina, Jim Edwards. So Joe, thank you for being here with us and the work that you did. And then the other Joe and my classmate from the beloved Texas A&M, we only go back approaching 50 years. And this is a man who is, I'm being really, really nice to him, not just because he's my classmate, that he's a Texas Aggie, that he's a Texan. He has the reorg bill for the Department of Energy. Everybody be real nice to him as we go through. But Joe, thank you. Joe was a White House fellow here back in the early 80s, as I recall. So these are people who have more than just a passing knowledge and a passing interest in this agency. And thank you all for being here today. This is a celebration of what I refer to as the best of America. We got to see the Marine Corps. I'm a huge fan of the Devil Dogs. Patrice, you're going to get up here in a minute and bless us in a big way. So this is celebration. This is a opportunity to talk about 40 years of innovation that the Department of Energy has been involved with. And that's a perfect description, General Klotz, of what DOE is really about. If I can think of one thing, one word that would describe the department, it would be innovation. You think about what has come out of this place over the years, the heart and soul of the American experience has been to question, to solve problems that face us as a people and as a country, to use our ingenuity to advance not only our country, but the condition of humanity. The heart and soul of this department is to innovate, to secure America's future by harnessing the ingenuity and the creativity of our people. For 4 decades, the outstanding people who work here have done exactly that. And today, we honor 85 charter employees, many of them who have been here from the beginning of this agency. In fact, in just a little bit, you're going to hear from our longest serving employee, Frank Goldner. Frank worked at the Atomic Energy Commission, which was the predecessor to the DOE. And I want to, as a matter of fact, Frank has got his own podcast that's out there right now. And as a matter of fact, it is soaring up the iTunes charts as we speak. So we need to, Frank, whenever Hollywood calls, don't forget your friends. Anyway, seriously, as he can attest, the Department of Energy in the United States looks a little different today than it did in 1977. Would you agree? In 1977, we had gasoline prices that were relative to that time incredibly high. We had low supplies. Those of you who were driving at that period of time, Chuck, you're not that old, so you won't remember this, but there were gasoline lines and that we waited in. Everywhere we turned, we heard the same refrain, that America's days of abundant and affordable energy were over. We were told to trim our sails, tighten our belts, rein in our growth, that the glory days were over with. I relate to that because in first day of March 1977, I'd left the Air Force as a very jubilant and dashing pilot in the United States Air Force, and had separated the service and moved back in with my mom and dad. I think I may have been the original slacker. You think, General Klotz? Maybe not, but anyway. The point is, 1977 truly was a different time, and people were looking around in disbelief, and they were asking a lot of questions. What happened to America? We hear people ask that, even today. But the fact is, they don't ask that about this agency, because the pioneering spirit that this country was founded on is still alive and well at the Department of Energy today. And you think about back to 1977. 8 years before that, a short 8 years before that, we put a man on the moon. We had just a couple of decades before that, we'd split the atom. In 1977, there were a lot of naysayers, people that were very negative about what was going on. And fortunately for America, there was the Department of Energy. Mr. Golden, I tell people, I said the Department of Energy in 1977 were yay-sayers. These were people who were saying, yeah, we can do this. And we started an energy revolution. And today, our situation couldn't be more different than it was 40 years ago. In place of scarcity, we have an abundance of energy in this country, thanks to innovation that in many cases came right from the Department of Energy, came from our national labs. Now we have a wider diversity of energy resources than we've ever had in the history of this country. We're producing energy of all kinds, cleaner than we ever did before. We're sharing America's energy bounty around the globe and advancing energy security and freedom for our partners around the world. This department has come a very long way in 40 years. America can't wait for the next 40 years of innovation that comes out of the Department of Energy. We will continue to push the boundaries of scientific knowledge through our national labs. We'll continue to ignite the curiosity of the next generation of brilliant minds through those STEM programs that we're going to be promoting. We're going to continue to research and develop new ways to discover and produce energy from all sources, and we'll produce that energy cleaner and more efficiently. Through our stewardship of our nuclear stockpile, for instance, we will help keep America safe, and we will promote the peaceful uses of nuclear science. The Department of Energy is the science and technology powerhouse of the United States. Our national laboratory system is the envy of the world. And you, each of you, across our DO enterprise, make a difference every day. And you represent the best America has to offer. I am blessed and proud to be a part of the DOE team. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Perry and Deputy Secretary Bruyette, for those inspiring and wonderful and motivating remarks. Now, if you would, I'd like to direct your attention to one of the two video screens that are up here for a short video produced especially for this occasion. It's entitled, "This is Energy." Ladies and gentlemen, our next distinguished speaker is, as Secretary Perry said, a charter employee, someone who has been with the department since the very beginning. Frank Goldner works in the Office of Nuclear Energy and began his career before 1977 at DOE's legacy agency. So Frank, if you'd please come to the lectern.
First, while I may have a few more years than some of the other 40 charter, I know they all share with me the same pride, pleasure, honor to be working for this agency. And the words of Secretary Perry just make us feel more proud. I thank you for that. I was honored in 1964 while I was at graduate school to have seen a table from the Atomic Energy Commission looking for new people for something called the intern program. And so, to make a long story short, they signed me up, and it was really a great break because I was able to continue my doctoral studies while working for the Atomic Energy Commission and learning new things. And by the way, at the beginning of a speech, I think it's always good to give your bottom line of the end of the speech. So my bottom line to all the young employees and all others is keep learning. To me, that's the key of what makes this place a pleasure to work for, that we can do that and keep learning. What happened to me beside becoming a nuclear intern, which involved like 3 years of training and going to the national labs. And I think one of the labs whose congressperson is here was one of the first labs I went to. Oak Ridge was very exciting in those days. When I joined, electricity was going to be too cheap to meter. We're going to have 1,000 nuclear reactors by the year 2000. Well, we didn't quite make those numbers, but the goal is still there, I think. So what happened next to me on my strange journey is that they asked the computer around 1971 for German and nuclear engineering, and my card popped out. And so that got me the first of 3 foreign assignments, which again made the place very exciting. I was fortunate to go to Brussels, to Bonn, and to Paris for 3 times. And one thing what I wanted to say to pick up what Senator Perry said is, at every embassy, it seemed I felt like I was a cool member of the embassy. From the ambassadors down, they love to talk about what's going on in the Energy Department. And I think Secretary's words, "it's a cool place," is the best way to describe it. It was just great in that sense. And of course, being in 3 different places as our energies grew, I got a chance also to see diverse technologies, which was very exciting. That was one of the benefits of having the foreign assignments, because I represented ERDA, DOE, is that I had to deal with other technologies. And so again, for me, it was just great. Since this is supposed to be a short speech, why did I stay so long? I think the Secretary clearly explained, and the Deputy Secretary, because it's so easy to learn different things if you're open to learn. As I said, I know my colleagues, of which some I know quite well, have also enjoyed it for similar reasons. So I think I speak for all of them in that sense. I've enjoyed greatly helping younger people, because one of the questions I get asked often is, how could you take it for 54 years? And again, my answer is just keep learning, be useful to your bosses. If you disagree, be honest, but try to disagree in a way that they don't ignore you. And that's perhaps very difficult, so I need reminding at my age. And as the Secretary said, we had challenges 40 years ago. They're probably bigger now, because 40 years ago, we thought the solution to mankind was nuclear energy. The reactors were going to do everything. As I said, too cheap to meter, no accident can happen. Well, regrettably, we've had 3 under our belt to deal with. But again, I consider that part of the learning process. I'm proud that from nuclear energy, and I think in none of those accidents did a person die directly, except, of course, Chernobyl, which was a different situation. But I was thinking of the ones that I know of here and Fukushima. So I guess I shouldn't have said that, but in the bigger picture, the incidence of fatalities is incredibly low. So the other thing I tell young people is, and why I've also enjoyed just staying so here, is the people. There's so many different people. They have interests, they have desires, they have wants, and they usually have difficulties and challenges. And the longer one is here, you get maybe some time to be like in Star Trek, the doctor who would sit down and talk it over. I seem to have the pleasure of advising. But as I said, I think the challenge is still here. And again, in what I recommend to the young people is keep learning, try to move around. That's again a beauty of this agency. With all its different areas, you actually have the opportunity to switch and to move. I don't see it done too much, except at the higher level. But I think at the younger level, I would advise them, take an opportunity to move around and don't be just become an expert in one thing. So again, I'm going to end by saying how honored I am to be among the people who've been here since 40. Even though I have a few more years, I feel as honored as they do and as happy to be here. And I thank you all, and I look forward to more years, as you said. Why not?
Thank you, Frank, for sharing your vast experiences and insight with all of us today, particularly the early career people of this department. Next, I'd like to welcome to the stage Patrice Carthern. Ms. Carthern will be singing the first 2 verses of America the Beautiful.
So beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains, majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for patriot dream that sees beyond the years. Thine alabaster cities gleam, undimmed by human tears. America, America, God shed his grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
If you please be seated. At this time, I would like to invite the Secretary and the Deputy Secretary to come forward for the official cake cutting ceremony. Okay, at this time, any of the charter people who are here, seated here, or in the audience, if you would please come up to the stage. We're going to take a picture of you with the Secretary and the Deputy Secretary.
Joe, Marcy, please. Congressman. Chuck. Yeah, well, you are, sort of. You are now.
I go from 81, so I guess
Well,
that's a little bit.
I served in the Jimmy Carter White House.
There you are.
Oh,
I was a cities expert, so I remember.
There's actually this good connection.
Gas was over $4 a gallon.
I remember the first time it went over 50 cents. I said, I'm not going to buy anymore. Where are you from? Maybe that was a little rash. Here you go.
Well, what do you think? I don't want
You're the actual charge. Sorry. We're banging stuff around, y'all. Stay with us.
get in front.
Let's get this completely off the stage.
I think the microphone, oh, I guess it's on. While we're all, before we all disperse, let me again just thank you all for coming. Thanks to everybody who had putting this together. Thanks to Patrice Cathern for a wonderful rendition of America the Beautiful. Now, the celebration's not over. If you go up the stairs towards the cafeteria on your right, there will be a special meal that is available, a barbecue cookout, I think. So we hope to see all of you up there. Thank you very much.